Shalom, friends in Messiah. I just want to go through this morning some of the letters to the churches. Now, we know that there are 7 main sins in these churches that are also reflected in the 7 deadly sins in Proverbs. I don't quite have time to put that together, but I'll just put them up on the screen and we can see if they link, which they probably will to an extent. 7 deadly sins and 7 major sins to be overcome in the churches. Now, the Messiah opens his address in the letters, and John describes always an attribute of the Messiah at the start of the letters, which in itself is a study in itself. I can do some other time. I might briefly look at them in this video. But the first church, which is Ephesus, now is basically remember the law, the Torah brings us to an awareness of our sin. So the Messiah, the living Torah, is bringing us, or bringing this church to a remembrance of leaving their first love. So let's just think about maybe perhaps their worship, forgetting it's the Messiah that's showing the way, bringing us out of the world. Now, sometimes Christians that I find put their denomination or church before the God or the Messiah they serve, which is a type of leaving their first love. And also, how many Christians try to clothe themselves in their own righteousness and preach their own denomination, when in actual fact, finding oneness with the Messiah really brings humility, and preaching the true gospel is really about sharing the Messiah, about loving. It is made effective by the work and example of our sovereign, Yahshua the Messiah. We should remember that we're serving him and not some denomination. Or sometimes we forget, sometimes it's a group of believers we're serving, and we forget that it's really the Messiah we're serving, and they need to be told certain things that maybe they won't like to hear. The second church is Smyrna. Now, the third church is called Pergamos. This one is really saying that you're a Jew. Now, there's so many people today, that think they have either replaced the Jews or Israel. There are many Jews that say that they're Jews, and yet they don't actually understand much of the Torah, because it's not been properly written in their hearts and minds. Remember, this is a promise of the New Testament, but they're still in the fleshly Old Covenant. Even though they may be circumcised in the flesh, their hearts have still to be circumcised. So it's not giving up love and charity for men's rules and laws, which are not pleasing to Yahweh. New creatures in the Messiah, whether of a Jewish or Gentile background, is what brings people together under Yahshua. So this defines the true nature and meaning of the word Yahudim. Actually, I've got Jew here. The true name is Yahudim. It's those that worship Yahweh, showing Messiah as a fulfillment of all these Jewish feasts. So he's the sustenance and fulfillment of them all. Only the Messiah of Israel can fulfill the 7 feast days that were given to us in Leviticus. So the culture has not died, but the definition now under Yahshua has brought literal sustenance to them. So many people think that, there's church cultures and so on and so forth. There's many different cultures within the body, they think, of the Messiah. No, there's only one culture. And that's been handed down to us by the Jews, of course. And as I say, many Jews are still keeping that culture, but fail to understand the real meaning and sustenance behind what it is that they believe in many parts of the Torah. And of course, we know that the Pharisees added to the Torah as well many different laws, which in actual fact brought to naught the commandments, which again the Messiah wasn't happy with the first time he came, and won't be happy. We still won't be happy with that unless you get yourself under the Messiah's headship. Then you truly find out what being a real Jew is, circumcised in the heart, sometimes as well as in the flesh. But being circumcised in the flesh will not bring you salvation. It's got to be in the heart, whether you're Jew or Gentile, and that's what the apostles preached in the book of Acts. I think it was Paul and Peter that preached you must be circumcised in the heart to be saved. It doesn't matter if you're circumcised in the flesh, it won't bring salvation. So accept Yahshua into your heart today. In this church is found the deeds of the Nicolaitanes. Really it refers to a defeated people. Like the doctrine of Balaam, is blessing when we should be condemning and cursing when we should be blessing. So a lot of people think today that if you follow the Torah you're cursed. No. The Torah says that you're blessed. And those that follow, for instance, the pagan calendar, giving up the Sabbath for pagan Draconian worship. Remember, the days are named after planet gods. And I know there's quite a lot about the planet Nibiru, and also read an article that people think that the dragon Satan is possibly on the planet Saturn. There's all these kinds of things. I personally think that most of Satan's cohorts, including the serpent, that which he used in Eden as well, they're all on the earth spiritually. They continue to deceive the masses, and many of these practices in the churches are actually remembering foods sacrificed to idols as well, which is really based in another church later on. But basically the deeds of the Nicolaitanes, any good Bible teacher can build a structure of a godly fellowship, but how many preach the whole gospel of the Messiah? Because what they're actually doing, these Nicolaitans, is lording it over the flock when they should be serving the Most High. They should be serving the Most High and then serving the people that they support with their prayers and teachings and so on. And it's up to that congregation to give back to the Messiah the fruit that is taught, and that is really to do with true worship. It's to do with understanding Yah's calendar as well, rather than falling into a pagan system of worship, which is really what we're born into, and that's another reason we need to be born again. Now the next one is the Church of Thyatira. Now I happen to think that this is quite a small version of what the Roman Catholic Church was in its first mention. I think the harlot in the book of Revelation, I do make a connection to that. So the doctrine of Balaam, meaning Lord of the people of idols. Idolatry, which works through the pagan Roman Catholic Church. This, along with Laodicea, is the general state of Christianity today. Observing Ishtar, Adventist solstice, Salmon's Day, which are Easter, Christmas and Halloween. The teachings go back thousands of years and made Israel stumble and commit fornication, spiritual fornication, with other pagan gods. We should be condemning these so-called Christian festivals and not celebrating them. First of all, they're not Christian, because remember the shadow pictures is from the Old Testament, so from the so-called Jewish feasts, or in actual fact the feasts of Yahweh, which were given to Israel. These are the shadow pictures that are fulfilled in the New Covenant, and again these festivals connected with idols are to do with false gods and the teachings of the fallen angels and Nephilim, and of course they're headed by Satan the dragon. So they're all tied into that particular church there. Now the next set of sin is loosely tied to that church as well. It's the sin of Jezebel. It's basically prophesying by the divination of spirits, of Satan. There are heavenly spirits, as written in the book of Revelation. I think it's in the 4th or 5th chapter in the book of Revelation. I'll put that up on the screen for you. But the spirits of Satan are what Jezebel is about. How he deceived the nations through a false church system, a Babylonian religion, through supernatural predictions, appearing of the Fatima and so on, depicting the mother of all life rather than the father of creation, a turning away from the Ten Commandments, and a lust for miracles is a condemnation of this wicked generation. It's one thing having signs and wonders after you've preached the word, or during your, while preaching the word, sometimes Yahweh chooses to do a sign and wonder or a miracle. Praise be to Yahshua, you know, when he does these things, when he chooses to do those things through a servant. We need to be clean vessels. We need to make sure that we're clean vessels, obviously, in order for Messiah to use us that way. But the sin of Jezebel, you know, it's kind of like she was in control of Ahab, the king of Israel, and ended up getting a vineyard from Naboth. You know, the vineyard really represents the fruit, the real body of the Messiah. And this Jezebel, by divination and by the wicked king, was able to kill Yahweh's true servant and take the very fruit which belonged really to him and was given to him by Yahweh.